Bonjour, I am Amanda.
No, we're not doing the French accent. It's not happening.
I do not know what you're talking about. This is just my accent.
No, it's not.
Get home from school, turn on my TV. Who are these friends staring right back at me? Now that we're older, why don't you come over and go back in time with me? 90s babies nostalgia.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, a podcast where two fully grown millennial women rewatch and sometimes watch for the first time tween entertainment from the early 2000s.
Just to be clear, we are not sponsored by nor affiliated with any of the shows or channels or anything that we mention in our podcast. Although if you'd like to sponsor us, we would love money. We just really like talking about TV. And today, the TV that we're talking about is...
Cadet Kelly!
Cadet Kelly, if you don't know, is a Disney Channel original movie, otherwise known as a dcom. I will never be saying Disney Channel original movie again. It is a dcom. Get it in your head. Sorry. Thank you. Done.
Yeah.
Cadet Kelly came out in, I think, 2002?
It came out on, I have the exact date, on March 8th, 2002. Mm-hmm. So it came out at this kind of pivotal moment where, so we didn't mention, but the main stars are Christy, Carlson, Romano, and Hilary, Duff. And so it came out at this pivotal moment where Lizzie McGuire was about to start its season 2 and Even Stevens was starting its season 3. So this kind of was in conjunction with them promoting both Even Stevens and Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah, and I will say, straight off the bat, they're not playing Ren Stevens and Lizzie McGuire. They're playing Jennifer Stone and Kelly something.
Yep.
That's Hilary's character. But they are...
I don't think... Oh, Kelly Collins.
They are almost like extreme caricatures of their show's characters. Because Jennifer Stone is like Ren if she literally never listened to Lewis and she was just like almost even more obsessively by the book. And then Kelly Collins is like, I guess Hilary or like Lizzie, like leaning into more of the fun side, and if she had been more extroverted and more confident, really.
Yeah, and I almost think even a little more ditzy.
Yeah, I don't know if that's her or just her upbringing. Okay, I feel like we need to summarize the movie before we get into all of the
I did want to mention before we get into the summary. So it was released on March 8th, 2002. And so it premiered with 7.8 million viewers, which is one of the most successful DComs. Not one of the most. It was the most successful DCom of its time. It was only then beat by High School Musical.
I hate that you know that because those were my fun facts. It was the most successful DCom, highest rated DCom until High School Musical. Yeah.
Yeah.
So truly the crossover of the millennia, early aughts. Yeah. Of the early aughts.
Yeah. Of the early aughts.
And of the tween stars. Can't cross off my notes. Don't need to say that anymore, Jessica.
Sorry. I did my research. I have time.
I don't, but I did it while I was watching the movie.
We open classic. I have to mention this. We open classic DCOM with stock footage of New York City.
Because Times Square, baby!
It would not be a DCOM without our good old stock footage. Film was actually filmed in Canada. It was not filmed in New York at all, but it takes place in New York City. Kelly and her friends are finishing up a project, and we see them ribbon dancing at this art school in New York City. And you kind of get this cute moment with Kelly and her dad where you learn that her dad's going off for a trip. And then it flashes forward to Kelly's mom. And they are having a dinner with Kelly's mom. We learn that Kelly's mom and dad are divorced. And Kelly, who is played by not played by Liz McGuire, played by Hilary Duff, we learn is kind of like into her mixed family dynamics. Like she's very comfortable in it. She talks about it a lot and kind of owns that this is the situation she's in. And so Kelly sits down with her mom and her mom's boyfriend, Joe, and they let Kelly know that they're going to get married and they're planning a wedding for summer. And as they're doing wedding planning activities, Kelly's mom mentions that Joe accepted a new job as a commandant at George Washington Military Academy and that they're moving upstate and that Kelly is switching schools. At this point, Kelly does not know she's going to a military academy. Her mom's just like, you're switching schools, we're moving, and Kelly is pissed.
Yeah, but she does know that mom's new fiance husband is the above a principal of this school and that he's a retired general.
Yeah, so he's a retired brigadier general and then
so she knows that, but she doesn't think that that could have anything to do with what his position in the school, that it's a military school.
Yeah, I don't think she realizes she's going to military academy, but also like, hello, Kelly's mom, you should be telling her this.
Military school?
Yeah. That was really good, actually. And so we get this scene of them pulling out. She finds out it's military school. She immediately does not fit in, but she kind of is taken under the wing and befriended by, not really her bunkmate, but the girl who bunks next to her, Carla.
Mm-hmm.
And we are introduced at this moment to Captain Cadet Jennifer Stone, who is the platoon leader of
their regiment.
Their squad. Yeah, their regiment, their squad. And she's evil and everyone hates her and they're all talking about how horrible she is.
She is the Ice Queen, yeah. And that's when little Cadet Kelly really brings her sass in. And she decides, with the confidence that only a rich white girl from New York City could exude, that she's going to change military school. I just can't get over her absolute confidence that it's her job to change the system because there's no individuality at this school. And it starts with just bad jokes and her trying to accessorize, and then it very quickly disappears and she's kind of actually trying to fit in but still making snide remarks, it doesn't really, there's not a lot of follow through in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of establishes that she doesn't have the same discipline in terms of the way that she speaks to authority figures that the other cadets do. She is not afraid to talk to Captain Stone the way that she wants to talk to her. In her classes where they're talking about military strategy, Kelly speaks up and is I don't agree with this. So she does show that she's not afraid to at least confront authority in ways that these kids are trained not to.
What is the phrase? I'm a conscientious objector.
I'm a conscientious objector.
She just raises her hand in the middle of military strategy class, whatever the fuck that is, and goes,
that's what I'm calling the class. They don't actually tell us that that's what it's called, but I feel like that's what they're teaching them.
Okay, so we see her not doing so well in class, not obeying the chain of command, struggling with this obstacle course. We have this big scene, a weekend, where they have a huge obstacle course. She can't do it well, and so
and she's afraid of heights, and so she's struggling with the rappelling. She's not good at any of it, but it also plays into her fear of heights, and she's outside of her comfort zone, and Captain Stone is kind of just shouting at her and not helping at all.
Everyone is so mean in that. And at this point, so we know two things. We know that there's a dance at the end of the week. It's the same day as this
obstacle
course. And we know that there is one boy in the whole military school that every girl is into. There's other guys. They're only into Brad. And Captain Stone is into Brad. And Kelly is seemingly into Brad. She doesn't really, it's not clear if she's into him or if she just wants to play around with the fact that Captain Stone is into him. And so she will say hi to him. Well, she thinks he's cute. We know that. She'll say hi to him, and she'll like beeline it for him and like cut off Captain Stone sometimes. And so she's repeatedly looking at him during the obstacle course, which she's also bad at. Captain Stone then has her do the obstacle course until she can get it right, thus making her not able to go to the dance. And instead of making sure that Kelly does it herself, she has her right-hand girl, Gloria, shout out Gloria, I've got words to say about her later, overlooking Kelly. And Gloria and Kelly kind of bond while she's doing it in the rain, going through the mud, struggling, and gives her tips and stuff. She relates to her on some level. And then she's able to finish the obstacle course in time for the dance, not in time to get ready and look nice like all the other kids, which would be great because she could finally wear her real clothes like she wants to. But she shows up super muddy. And just like, I don't know what happens. She's clumsy. She falls, and she falls straight into Jennifer Stone's white bridal dress.
Yes. I want to talk more about that scene later, but we can get through the summary and then focus in on that scene because I have a lot of questions. Makes no sense. But yes, she pummels down straight into the dance, right into Jennifer Stone's white dress, and Brad is living for it. He's laughing. He thinks it's hilarious. So does everyone else, except for Jennifer Stone, who is pissed.
Yes. I just want to say it's very bold of everyone to laugh at this, but we're going to talk about it more later. Continuing.
Yeah. And so at this point, the Commandant Joe
sits her down.
Hilary's stepdad sits her down and is like, hey, that's not cool. You ruined her property. This isn't okay. I'm not impressed with what you've been doing here in your first week. No one has good things to say about you. And so at this point, Lizzie runs home and she's like really, really upset. And she wants to tell her mom she doesn't want to go to military school anymore. She doesn't fit in. She's not happy. And before she can share this information with her mom tells Kelly that she's pregnant. And so Kelly's like, well, this isn't an appropriate time. I think I've called her Lizzie and Kelly. Guys, it's Kelly. Kelly is like, I can't share this with my mom because she just told me she's pregnant, so I'm just gonna have to put up with military school. So she decides to get back at Captain Stone and pull a prank.
So she messed up Captain Stone's dress at the dance, got in trouble for that, and also for her performance in classes. I want to say, very unfair of him. It's been 1 week. Anyway. Moving forward.
But she doesn't get in trouble at that point. She just gets a talking to. It's not until she pulls the prank that she gets in trouble.
Yeah, but I feel like it's still kind of in trouble when you get a talking to.
Sure.
He says do better, and in the next scene we find out she very much will not, because Captain Stone comes around for her morning inspection, and Kelly has this tie-dye blanket that she's had as like her blanket, and it's also kind of a protest, and she's had it around this whole time. Captain Stone in the beginning was like, I never want to see that ever again. Your bunks have to be your bunks. Regulation, bedding, that's it. No individuality. And Kelly is like, put it under her pillow, but like it's slipping out a little bit at the end. And Captain Stone is looking for something to really get her on and notices it. And she picks up the blanket and just fucking tears the thing. And it's hilarious because you can see where they clipped it for Christy, Carlson, Romano to be able to do that. But she really rips the thing up. And Kelly's so upset by this that she goes to bed and gets out of her trunk this whole acrylic paint set and sneaks into Jennifer's private quarters, which aren't locked. And I'm pretty sure we see that Jennifer's sleeping on her back, yet somehow Kelly manages to paint half of a rainbow on the back of her head. Only on the back. You can't even see it from the front. And it's like 4 bright neon colors, and it's acrylic, so it's hard like a shell. So it dried there. It's a lot. And because of this, she gets a court-martial, and they have to go to cadet court, blah, 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 which Brad is overseeing, but also the commandant is like the final judge, blah, blah, blah. And They the
cadet court's cadets make the decision. So Brad's the captain major, so he finds Kelly guilty.
Yeah.
And once you're guilty, it's the commandant who gets to pick the punishment. And so her sentence is to be the equipment manager for the drill team.
So at this point, we are 50 minutes into a 1 hour and 40 minute decom. This is a full feature film, guys.
Yes.
I tried looking up if this is the longest decom. There's no stats on lengths of decoms available to me. If you are into that kind of thing, please make it available because I need to know.
Yeah. It's long.
It's long, and the big thing doesn't happen until fully halfway through. Also, at this point, I have childhood trauma about everything that Kelly's gone through, and she just fucking bulldozes through it. So, her punishment, she's doing scut work for the drill team. She's previously said that they look like robots. She thinks that it's disgusting that they're carrying guns and blah, 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 but not like so overtly against guns because like we want the NRA kids to watch this too.
Well, she says, I believe in gun control.
She does say that. And Carla goes, around here, that is gun control, which is a great line. We see her start to shine shoes, and Brad hears her making a dumb song about how Jennifer's heart is mighty cold. And he says that she makes him laugh, and he shows her that a proper shoe shine, you have to spit on the shoe. She then, in the next scene, gets Carla to join her in the scut work, and Carla's such a good friend that she does it. Then the drill team goes to compete. They don't do that well. They say that they're great on like their clear like what's it called? Like they have to do like history stuff in the beginning and they're good at that. And they also have to do, you know, like just regular drills and they're clean, their moves are good, but there's no creativity, there's no originality, they're not doing so well. And there happens to be one place available on the drill team. So Kelly uses her imported goods because her dad is a travel journalist, if we didn't make that clear. So she's got like goods like bangles from Bangladesh and shit. And so she uses this to bribe Gloria Ramos, is her last name, into teaching her how to fucking throw a gun. And do the history and shit. And Ramos, true MVP, trains her. She makes it onto the drill team. Carla is still stuck doing the scut work that she was never punished with. But that's dropped. And Kelly learns now to get along with Jennifer in this very weird dance battle moment in the grass. There's nothing is said. Jennifer is just doing her own little clappy dancing moment practice thing. And Kelly fucking comes up to her and starts doing it back and twirling around her. And they don't say a word, but they just have this weird pigeon dance off moment. And Brad is like, do that again.
Yes.
And they decide that this is going to be the thing that saves the drill team at regionals.
This is the creativity that they have been searching for.
Yeah. And it's also, I just have to say, like, I've got so many notes. I have 3 pages of notes. But this is the whitest scene I've ever seen. Like, ever. Like, and I watched Sister Wives. Like, this is a lot.
Well, yeah, because they're trying to incorporate hip-hop dancing into their moves, and they both just are, I mean, I do have to say Hilary is better at it than Christy, Carlson, Romano, because Hilary does have a more... Christy, Carlson, Romano only has a ballet background. Hilary has a more mixed dancing gymnastics background. So she's less stiff, but they're both very white while doing it. It's not the right moves.
It's very awkward. Yes. But they decide that it is the right moves. And so...
they're going to competition. So she's on the team, and then we see them go to the competition, and we see Kelly's best friend from home show up, and we also know that Kelly's dad has agreed that he's going to be there for the competition as well. She doesn't see him there, and they go into inspection phase, and they get a 10 out of 10 on their inspection phase, and they're doing great. And after inspection phase, Kelly's phone rings and everyone gets pissed because they're like, we could have been disqualified for that. But she's like, the only person who calls me on this phone is my dad. And it's like a deadline. And she just like her intuition, she knows something is wrong. She's like, this isn't right. My dad wouldn't call me like this unless something was wrong. Like, this is very weird. I feel unsettled about this. And so she goes and talks to Joe. And she's like, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to compete because I owe it to the team. And Joe's like, nope, we need to go save your dad. So Joe and Kelly go off to go find her dad. And they know like what mountain he's on because he had shared that with them. Mm-hmm. And so they find her and they see where he has fallen. And so Kelly gets over her fear of heights and she rappels down to him while they wait for the rescue team. And Kelly's dad get saved. It's all happy. Joe and Kelly finally hug, which is kind of this thing where Joe and Kelly have a very weird relationship that's very stiff. And so this is kind of the moment where the like stepdad and stepdaughter relationship we kind of see bloom into something closer. Mm-hmm. They drive back to the competition. They're 5 points down at this point, and they're like, the only thing that is going to bring us back is if Jennifer and Kelly do their routine together. It's the best thing we have. And so they do their routine. They're both super happy. Everyone is cheering. They get a standing ovation, and they end up getting second place by 1 point to Rahway High School, we see them compete against this high school multiple times. And so they lose gold by 1 point, but they still do awesome and get the silver. And it kind of ends with this cute moment where Captain Stone tells Kelly that she's moving next year and kind of wishes for Kelly to turn into her, to become a platoon leader, to kind of step into Captain Stone's footsteps.
With an annoying little maggot like yourself.
Yes.
Well, she doesn't say annoying. She says a little maggot.
Maggot like
she just
yourself.
Says maggot with so much disgust.
Mm-hmm.
And they are like, some of them are like, oh, we lost. And then the rest, Brad's like, we're going to nationals. We didn't lose. We placed. So.
Well, and also previously we see Kelly's stepdad, Joe, like show the trophy and be like, this is from when I was on the drill team in 1971 and we got third place. That's the best we've done since then. So I'm like, they got second place. So that's now the new best they've done. So isn't that amazing? Like, I feel like they should be celebrating the win way more than they did.
I have so many notes.
Yeah.
This decom really hits you guys. It goes and it goes and it doesn't stop.
Yep.
I took my notes chronologically. I don't know how you took them. How do you want to go through this? How do you want to start?
You can go chronologically, and I'll jump in.
Okay, it opens with Kelly saying, I've always known there are some stories that need to be told. I just didn't know that my memoirs were one of them. She can't say the word memoirs. She says memoirs. Mm-hmm. And then the movie ends with a voiceover from Kelly saying, I may not have remembered it all correctly. I may not know what everyone was wearing, but those were my memoirs. Mm-hmm. So first of all, why can't she pronounce it? Is it because she's that fucking New Yorker? And also, secondly, what does that have to do with the film at all? We never see that she is writing a book. She's not like, is this the student film that she was supposed to make for art school in the beginning? I don't know how to interpret those lines. They don't add anything to the film other than confusion, and I want them edited out. Thank you.
Okay. It's fair. It's fair. They didn't bother me as much as they were bothering you. I took it as that was her filming herself for her little student documentary for her family project that she was working on in art school.
But she didn't have to complete that.
Yeah.
And she's never... Okay, she's shown making it once. So also, just like the way that this is set up, I mean, first of all, the opening sequence is everything. It's the thing I remember the most about the film, more even than the big scene with her and Christy Carlson at the end where they do the batons and shit. I remember the beginning when she did the batons and she had her like
ribbon dancing
blue hair scrunchie. I had one of those. Mine did not look nearly as good. But I cannot get over how, like, stereotypical New Yorker they made it, where it was like, she goes to a middle school for the arts. They don't sit in desks when they do math. They don't really have to do math. They're very, very funky, liberal, weird school. Her family is clearly rich, lives in Manhattan. They're eating
in a huge apartment. This apartment is so big, I do not understand how it is in New York City. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, especially when you're considering that her mom is a single mom. At this point, Joe does not live there. It is just her mom and Kelly that live there. The dad does not live in that apartment. Like, it makes no sense that they would live in an apartment that large in Manhattan, just the two of them.
You stole my rant, and I have more to this. One, her dad is a travel journalist who her mom does not seem to respect very much for what he does because he acts very childish. I don't know what kind of money he's making, but it's not good because he's a travel journalist. Two, you know what her mom does? She's a fucking book editor. You know what I do? I work in publishing. I know what book editors make, and they don't make enough for that kind of apartment. Most of them don't even make enough to not have roommates in their 30s.
Yep.
So that hurts. And in the beginning, you hear her on the phone. She's like, I know what the contract said, but 1,200 pages? Who's writing this book? George R.R. Martin? But she is an editor. It goes beyond that. Like, her and her mom clearly have a very close bond, and they like go they're eating the first meal we see of the family eating is with chopsticks, which I couldn't help but wonder if that was even supposed to be pointed, like, oh, look at these white people eating with chopsticks, they're so liberal and artsy, because it's 2002, you know.
No, because, see, I didn't take that as that at all. I took that more as, like, it's a focus on you see her mom go into a motherly role as the show goes on. She learns how to cook. She puts an apron on incorrectly, like, and then she ends up cooking a meal from scratch, where it's kind of inferred that all they eat is takeout.
Yeah, I thought it kind of went with both, but I could be reading too much into it. As Californians, it's not abnormal for us, but I know a lot of people who can't use them still. So
yeah,
it felt kind of pointed, but maybe that's just me reading into it too much. I'm going to continue to do that for the rest of the film, starting with, okay, not reading into this too much. Her best friend's name is Amanda, and I just really needed to point that out. She has exactly one good line. We never mentioned Amanda because she is no use to this film, except for this very random C plot. Okay, so A plot. Kelly's struggling with military school. B plot, family stuff. Her mom gets married, her mom gets pregnant, and her stepdad doesn't know how to be a dad, so she starts teaching him how to be a dad. And also there's this whole two dads thing. C plot becomes best friends with Carla, and her friend, and Carla's great, but then her friend comes and she makes this one comment about, like, she's my truest friend, and Carla feels really sad. And so at the same time that she learns that she has two dads, she learns that she can have two best friends. It's a lot for never really seeing Carla. We're learning a lot of lessons in this film, and I don't actually think the film is about her relationship with Captain Stone, like, at all. You know? Like, I feel like it's her versus military school.
Yeah. I agree to an extent, but I also know, which I don't know if you were going to get into this, and I don't know if this is the right time to get into this, but I also know that this film was a gay awakening for a ton of people, and a ton of people. This film is considered an LGBTQ film. A lot of people will argue that Brad was just thrown in because it was Disney in 2002, and that really the point of the story is Captain Stone and Kelly, and even like Christy, Carlson, Romano has like said like if they were gonna do some sort of spin-off, she would love to see Captain Stone like as the principal of the school, married to a woman. Like it's kind of, Disney has never said it, but the fan base and all of the gays out there are like, Captain Stone's a lesbian, and that's what this film is about. So a lot of people will argue differently, I think.
I did not get that at all, but I will wholeheartedly agree from now on. I did not know that was how it was. I do recall Christy mentioning that in a throwback at some point, but I forgot about it.
It's like a huge thing in the LGBTQ world where they argue that this film is it's a gay film because like Brad is kind of pointless. He's there and everyone's like, oh, he's cute, but like they never really show him and Captain Stone having a relationship. Like we're to think that they do, but like it's never shown. He's kind of just there to be there, but there's nothing with him. There's no kiss, there's no romance, there's nothing.
So I have notes on Brad that I was going to get into later because I was going chronologically and then I went on a tangent that I didn't know I was going to go on. But since we're on Brad, every single girl likes Brad, and Brad is average as hell. There are cute. He's not that cute.
He's cute.
He's like dollar store Chad Michael Murray.
If I was 16, I would think he was very hot.
I think Chad Michael Murray is hot. I think Brad was like okay, but I'm just saying in that first shot you see of him, there were cuter boys that were extras. He's not cute enough for every girl to like him. He was in X-Men.
Yep.
At the same, right before and right after this film. So I kind of love that he was like in a big blockbuster and a dcom and a big blockbuster.
Yeah.
He wasn't like a big character though, so it's fine. I'm also like very confused as to the relationship, and yeah, like you're right, like he's not shown any interest in Jennifer, but if anything, like I kind of think he hates her. Like he loves to laugh at her every time that Kelly's making fun of her. He's the first one to bust out laughing when Kelly gets mud all over Jennifer's dress, and he goes, at least someone here knows how to have a good time. And then in the cadet court, Jennifer's wearing a cap and to hide her paint hair, which she hasn't washed off yet. And he goes,
makes no sense.
Like, speaking of protocol or hierarchy or whatever, he's like, or decorum, I don't know. The hat, the cap, and she doesn't take it off at first. And he's like, the evidence, Captain Stone. And she takes it off, and you see the whole paint on the back of the head, and everyone laughs, and he's having the best time of his life after having like forced her to take this hat off and embarrass herself in front of everyone. Like he does not like her.
No, he continually likes to make fun of her.
But he also, it could be that gross like boys flirting with a girl, because like, okay, the thing is, when Kelly does something about her, he laughs, he kind of agrees with her, he makes fun of her. But then they also get along really well. Like they have very civil conversation. There's a couple times where Jennifer's saying some bullshit and he'll kind of like override her, like, no, like you don't need to be that dramatic. Like this isn't right. But for the most part, like it seems like they like get along. Like he has some sort of rapport with her.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely have a good relationship in terms of like he's Captain Major, she's a captain as well, and they work very well together with one another.
Yeah. But I do kind of think that he hates her to some extent, or he just like has fun. I don't know.
Connected to the school. So the school in New York that she goes to, I don't have any problems with it. It's this fancy art school, very liberal, whatever. Those types of private schools exist. They're out there. I have no issues with it. What I do have issues with is a mother that would pay to put their kid in that type of school. One, would never marry a general. Two, would never put their kid in military academy and agree to that. So it just makes no sense to me that Kelly's mom is marrying a general and is putting her daughter in military academy. She could go to a different school and they could still live in upstate New York. It's not like there's only military academy and that's Kelly's only option. It just makes no sense to me that they would be okay with, like, that her mom would be okay with Kelly attending a military academy.
Yes. I was confused by that as well. I mean, we see that the general is like, I don't know, he's like, he was in New York, so he's hip, right? But it's very strange. I don't have a problem with the fact that these schools exist, the art school. I do have a problem with that being the school that Kelly went to. Like, did she have to be so completely polar opposite that when she went to military school, everyone had to laugh at her because she isn't used to sitting in a desk? Like, did she have to be that much of a cliche? Not everyone in New York is like that. In fact, most people in New York are not like that. However,
I think it's connected to who her character is, though, because her character is very individualistic and very creative and very out there and not afraid to speak up for what she believes in. And so I think that is connected to her upbringing, and part of that is the schooling her parents chose to give her. So I never really saw it of a, like, oh, we're poking fun at a New York thing, because I never really felt that. I felt they were more making fun of her, not making fun of the fact that she came from New York.
It felt like they said, we're going to make a movie about military school, which early aughts kind of makes sense because every parent was threatening their kids with sending them to military school when they acted up. It's fair. It was on our minds. We wanted to know what it was. And then they said, what would be interesting? A girl acclimatizing to military school. Okay, what kind of girl? The complete polar opposite of military school. And that's what I have a problem with, is why did she have to be so completely polar? And then it feels like they started building Kelly from there. Okay, this girl's the opposite of military school. So what is she? She's from somewhere really liberal in a big city. We'll go with New York. Okay, she went to a very different kind of school. She, like, her parents are not a nuclear family. And then they, like, that's, to me, that's what it feels like they did, is they built her in opposition to the structure that existed. And I don't like that she couldn't just be, like, a normal girl. But girls like this exist who are also normal. I don't need to have such a beef with it. I just...
Yeah, I think that you're picking a big problem with it, where I'm like, the movie probably would be boring if she was just average. I think, like, what adds to the movie is that she is so opposite.
I don't know. I think we're average and we would have a hard time with it anyway. I think it would ground it a little bit more.
Yeah. But, like, are dcoms supposed to be grounded, or are they supposed to be a little out there?
All right, so it's just her and her dad who walk around New York talking about dirty water hot dogs.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell that is. Also, is her... I was like, one of my first notes is her dad... Does he have an accent, or is he just kind of racist? Because he's like... They're walking around and he's using an accent to talk about the places that he's going. Like, weird, fake, vaguely Asian accents. Anyway, back to... Because I had to mention those as she's quirky. Back to the military school thing.
Yes.
As a kid, I knew these existed. I did not fully comprehend what they were. They were like the ROTC on steroids, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Kind of what I thought, but I didn't fully know what the ROTC was. You know, in a way, you never fully understand what the military complex is until you're an adult and you find out how much money we spend on it and, like, how big it is, and, like, guys. And now, as an adult watching this, yes, I do hate the military complex, if you can tell from my rant already. And then you want to think about, we are putting young, impressionable children into a model of that environment to breed them, to raise them into being these things. Where they are learning skills that aren't really transferable. And you can fight me on that, because that's a huge problem, is people coming out of the military complex and not having transferable skills. Yes, they're also getting an education, but they're learning fucking military strategy, and they're, like, learning to be part of the team and all of that in a way that is stifling of the identities that they're trying to grow at that time. And I just hate it. I hate it.
I also think another thing which this like movie does not touch on or talk about at all is like a lot of military academies are used as a punishment. Or if a kid is a troubled kid, they can be sentenced to something that is similar to a military academy. I feel like I never saw it as something that people voluntarily went to, which I'm sure they do, but it's like they don't touch on the fact that it's like probably a lot of these kids are troubled kids that are attending military academy.
They touch on it once.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Do you remember this?
No.
So, let's bring this over to the two real MVPs, the two true stars of this film, Carla and Gloria.
Yep.
Carla and Gloria carry this film. They are two women of color, or two characters of color, and Carla has this little heart-to-heart early on with Hilary Duff's character. She does a few times. She's got her back, and she is a black character. I don't think we mentioned that. And Hilary is complaining about, they would never treat me like this in my school, and blah, 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 blah. And Carla says something like, this is like heaven for a girl like me.
Yeah.
And she, through that and a couple other lines, heavily implies that she's from a very dangerous either household or neighborhood, and she said she was lucky to go there. Which was a choice.
Yes.
That they made and then didn't really make, because they never elaborate on that. That could have been the C plot. What is Carla's story? Of course it's the fucking black girl, but like, I just that.
Well, and we get a lot of montage scenes that I'm like, this movie is, as we mentioned, like an hour 40, an hour 45 minutes. We get a lot of montage scenes. They could have taken some of those out and given us more Carla. I would love to know more about, like, we see little things where, you know, she doesn't have access. All the girls are sharing what their welcome back dance dresses are going to be because they get to wear normal clothes.
Right.
And we see that Carla doesn't have
normal clothes.
And so Kelly takes her back to her house to pick out a dress. So we see things like that. But I would love to get more of like, who is Carla and why is Carla there? Instead of a lot of like the really long montage scenes that we get. That I'm like, okay, this could have, like, I could have had a little less obstacle course and a little more Carla.
Yeah, one of my notes is what is her backstory? Because that's what I want to know. See, and that's what I'm saying about you could have grounded the character. I want to know about Carla. But yeah, she doesn't have a dress for the dance, but even she makes a comment where when they mention the dance, Kelly says, so we can wear real clothes or wear our own clothes. And Carla says, if you got them. Which to me implies that she doesn't have any of her own clothes. She could even be an orphan. Like, I just don't know.
We don't know. Yep.
But I want to know. That's all I really have on Carla, because that's all she really gets. She really gets shoehorned out at the end, and in the middle, they shoehorn her out, and then they throw her back in at the end. Justice for Carla for fucking helping Kelly do the scut work, and then not having her own plotline where she gets to join the drill team with her and has to continue doing the scut work that she voluntarily did. But also, I want to talk about Cadet Ramos while we're on the subject, because she's great. So Cadet Ramos is played by Amy Garcia. I actually don't know Carla's name, sorry.
Andrea Lewis, I think.
Okay, thank you. She hasn't done nearly as much work. Amy Garcia actually has done a lot of work since.
Whoa. I am not letting you get away with that. Andrea Lewis, this actually was a breakout role for her. It allowed her to go on and play in Degrassi. If you are a Degrassi fan,
she was on Degrassi.
Know who she is. And she went on to be in one of Drink's music videos. So we are not giving Andrea Lewis scraps. She did go on to do things.
Thank you. I forgot she was mostly in Degrassi: The Next Generation. That is true. I did look her up. Amy Garcia did also go on to do a lot. She's currently on one of the DC shows. I forgot what it is. This was one of her earlier roles. The actress is half Mexican, half Puerto Rican. Her dad is Puerto Rican, and he was in the U.S. military. She was born in Chicago. She does not have an accent, the actress.
Mm-hmm.
But the character does.
Mm-hmm.
And who decided that is my question. Because that means, I mean, maybe she decided. I find it hard to believe she decided, I'm sure, because that's a big, strong choice. That was probably the director. That means that they really wanted her to be. I just want to know whose choice it was to make Gloria specifically Puerto Rican. That was all. That was my whole rant. It was just like, and she does mention, she says when she's doing the drills, like the mud crawl, that she is remembering the stars in Ponce, I think it is, which is a city in Puerto Rico. So, it feels, I don't know, targeted? Specific.
Yeah.
It feels like a specific choice. Both of the characters of color do.
Yeah. And maybe they wrote the character that way and wanted who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
And the only other side character of note, not even the dad, is Amanda, who I mentioned, has only one good line. And that line is at the end when she shows up for the big drill team show. And Kelly goes, "What are you doing here?" And she says, "Well, your mom called my mom and my mom called the car service." Which I quite like. Also, I really thought as a kid that they moved to like fucking Virginia or something. But then they mentioned that they're in the Hudson Valley.
Like, they said upstate.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have some? I mean, I have more notes to go, but do you have?
Continue. No, keep going. I do have other notes, but yours are in chronological order, and mine are not.
I've not been going chronologically though. Oh, so there's. Okay, hold on. I'm confused by the mom's timeline. So
it makes
she tells Kelly, "We're getting married. This is not a question. This is a fact." The next day, Kelly says, "Do you realize that this is the last time we'll both be single women together?" There's no wedding. It's just, that's it.
Well,
that's
it's implied that they get married because they say we're getting married this summer and then school starts.
In my mind, the events of this film happen in 2 months.
Sure. Maybe they do.
It's very unclear, the passing of time, because she sounds like we go straight from I'm getting married to this is your last single day, and I'm like, okay, so she told her right the day before.
Sure.
Like, and then they're moving, and then right after they move to military school, her mom is pregnant.
Yep. And then like a month later, her mom is like in her 3rd trimester about to pop, like,
yes,
huge baby bump.
So at the point where is it? Okay, so Kelly's joined the drill team and not gotten that far with it. She's just, she joined the drill team. This is after their loss of a competition. And then she had her dance battle with Jennifer Stone. And then her dad comes to visit, and we see the mom for the first time since finding out she's pregnant. And in my mind, about a month has passed, maybe. Yeah. And her mom is now 8 months pregnant. Yes. She is big. And I don't, like, at most, you would be like 2 or 3 when you tell your daughter because you want to get somewhat through the first trimester, but you don't want to be showing. But she's like 8 months pregnant a month later.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Because the thing is, women do show quicker on their 2nd and 3rd kids. That is true. Like, women, the more kids you have, the quicker you start to show. But still, let's say she waits until her 2nd trimester to tell Kelly, so that would be at 12 weeks. Realistically, she probably would start showing around month 4 or 5, month 5 more likely. But she is, like, big, like, about to have the baby in the next 4 to 6 weeks when her dad comes over for dinner.
Yeah. I don't know how it happens. I don't know what supplements she's taking. I don't like, unless all of this stuff with Kelly has actually been happening over a much longer time, but the first week, the commandant talks to her about how she needs to be doing better. And that week is almost the same amount of time as, like, the rest of the time she's at military school.
Yeah.
So that's true. So it's just truly mind-boggling, the timeline
and there's still
of this
nationals, and we don't see any holidays. It's all very confusing.
No holidays. So there's no passing of time.
Yeah.
I'm truly impressed. I know I talk a lot of shit about Kelly. I love that she has no shame, first of all. And I'm beyond impressed with how well she adjusts to all of these changes, because holy crap.
Yep.
This is all thrown at her.
If there's not a more adaptable kid, she learns so fast, especially for her age, and is able to adjust. And even though this movie makes a point to make fun of, like, when she is all accessorized in her cadet uniform and stuff like that, like, she learns very quick.
Yes, but when I say that she has no shame, please understand that one of the moments where she's flirting with Brad, she runs up to him before they go on the competition, and she says, "Just so you know, I bring luck with me, and some people run my head." And she puts her head in his face. Right in front of Jennifer. Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so weird. She's so weird. Sometimes people run my head. Like, is that even flirting? I can't.
I love it.
But while we're on... What?
I wouldn't say it's flirting, but I feel like it feels she's authentically herself.
Yeah. While we're on the nuclear family, and the mom's timeline and all of that stuff. So
yes.
So I wanna start with this really funny metaphor, because I'm a writer and I'm reading too much into this, but also because someone took the time to write this into the film. This very funny metaphor right at the beginning. So while she's in art school, we learn that they have an assignment to do a project on their family or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she is wishy-washy between what she's doing, and she decides she's going to make a film because that's what her dad's around and he's hanging out. And she's recording with a camera in the fancy apartment, and she's backing up, and she takes like fucking 10 steps back as her parents are yelling at her to stop. And she makes a comment about, we're the nuclear family that exploded, but in the calmest way, or the gentlest way, or something like that. And then backs up into this fishbowl, which then falls to the floor, and all the fish are out and they're almost dying. And I thought that was a metaphor for the family and how it exploded. And then I realize now, looking at my notes and thinking about that scene, that was also a metaphor for the rest of the film, because she saves all the fish and says something like "no fish left behind" or something.
Yes.
And about how she has to learn to be as part of a team in military school. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I didn't connect the fish, but yes.
I feel like it has to be, because she used the term exploded and then the fucking fishbowl just right after that. Like, that's...
Yeah.
It's a lot that you're throwing into this one little thing, or I'm reading way too much into it. This is not Shakespeare. Just to side note, fun fact about this film, it was co-written, I don't remember one of the writers' names, but the other one, Gail Parent, did a few things, including Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, which I think says a lot, because it's very much of this style. Like, this is like the baby version of that, almost, of the ridiculous New York girl with like a lot of weird quips and things.
Yeah, and then it's co-written by Michael Walsh. Mm-hmm. And then the movie was directed by Larry Shaw, who also directed the pool party episode of Lizzie McGuire. Like
the first episode? That's the pilot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's the pilot.
Yeah, it's the pilot. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, the family, I had to throw them in because, the quirks, but the family, we have this weird fishbowl scene that I feel like sets up the whole film in a weird way. And the dad means nothing. The dad is there to walk around, use weird accents, throw some foreign goods at her, talk about these exotic places he's going. And then there's a very big climax with the dad.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're shown to have Kelly and her dad are shown to have a very close relationship. They're constantly hugging, laughing. You could just tell they really get one another and do have a very close father-daughter relationship, but he does travel a lot for work.
Yeah, they appreciate each other. They get along. She gets along with him almost better than she does with her mom in some respects.
Yes.
She's allowed a cell phone at school and uses it, which I was surprised by. And while we talk about the dad and the family and all of that, when we see them, we learn 25 minutes into the movie that she has a house. Because her stepdad is the commandant and her mom is his wife. And they are in a whole fancy house on the campus, and she has her own bedroom with all of her personal stuff that she's been craving, but she has to sleep in the barracks, and she doesn't. This is the first time we're seeing it, and a lot of the people don't seem to know who her stepdad is, so she clearly doesn't like hang out here, and I just wonder why not.
The mom brings it up.
What?
She said, the mom brings it up when she's talking about Joe got this job, and she said, we actually have to live where he works, so you'll be able to come home on the weekends. She says that, like, you'll be able to come home on the weekends.
Oh.
So we know that they're living on the campus, but she still has to act like the rest of the cadets. Like, she doesn't get special treatment.
I get that, but I also think it's fucked up because the rest of the cadets' families aren't.
I agree.
Right around the corner, you know? Like, her house is right there. Plus, she could have a whole different life.
She just walks to her house when she wants to. She's like, I'm going over for lunch. I'm picking out dresses, like, walking home.
But she has a really crappy first week, and we, like, don't see her do that. And then all of a sudden, she's doing that fairly regularly. And this house has an offensively bright red staircase.
I did not pay attention to that.
It is red carpet red, except a little more neon for no reason.
Got it.
It's atrocious. I hate it. But so the dad, climax scene, because we've been circling around him and family. What do you think of this scene?
Well, I don't know if this is where you're getting. I have questions. My questions are, they just brought all of this rappelling equipment with them? Like, they're like, oh, we got to go find your dad. Oh, let's bring all of this rappelling equipment with us, because they show up to him halfway falling down the cliff, not necessarily unconscious, but
he looks dead
of his condition. He looks knocked out.
I
wouldn't say he looks dead. He looks knocked out. And so they just bust out all their rappelling equipment, and Kelly's like, I have to rappel. But I just don't... They brought all that with them?
Propel.
No, rappel.
All right, propel is a helicopter.
Also, don't tell someone who has rock climbed more than you a rock climbing term.
I forgot that you used to rock climb.
Yes. Rappel. Propel is a helicopter. Propel is also a sports drink.
Yes. They're in the military. They're always prepared.
Yeah.
So they go...
I also don't understand, like, it's not like she did anything. She just rappelled down there and then, like, gave them a hug and was like, oh, Dad. And then they just waited for the rescue team. So I'm like, what did she do?
Yeah, I thought that you really just put this miner's life in danger by having her rappel down the cliff. And I thought that when she started doing it, I was like, oh, so then she's going to give the harness to him and then the commandant will pull him up. But then that didn't happen because then we cut away and then there's a rescue team. And how long did it take them? She was going
to give some level of first aid or something, but she literally does nothing except to go down there and have a hug with her dad.
Yeah. And this just, to me, like, feels very unnecessary. It's a lot of extra drama on top of everything else, and for what? We have not seen the dad very much. I get that it's the whole like make him proud moment. It's really it's the B plot moment where she says you're my dad and you're my dad, and the commandant's like, yeah, 2 dads, and you can also have 2 friends to tie in with the C plot. But why? Like it added a lot of drama, but like I didn't really care, because then we have a second climax scene with her and Christy Carlson doing their routine on the dance floor. Well, not dance floor, but you know what I mean. So like, why? I don't know. It was a lot. Was it not a lot? I thought it was a lot.
No, it was a lot. And I have something connected to this is, right, they finished the like inspection phase or whatever it is, where they like ask some weird military questions and they answer it and they get 100%. And then this is when she gets the call and her and Joe run off. Joe's the commandant. He's very invested in this drill team because he was on drill team. And he's like, you know what? We got to go save your dad. We're going to go do this together. But they don't tell anyone, because then everyone's like, where's Kelly? And I'm like,
the mom
just ran off and they don't know?
The mom doesn't know.
Yes,
the mom doesn't know.
And Amanda are like, where is she? I don't see her.
I know. He ran off with the mom's daughter and didn't tell her.
Yeah.
You don't run off with someone's daughter, even if she is your stepchild.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, that was,
they don't
that
tell
really
anyone.
Bothered me. Like, call her in the car on the way there. Like,
yeah.
That drove me
nuts. But you would think they're all about, like, we're all family, we're one team, we work together, that, like, this came up, they would have been like, hey, we have an emergency, we have to leave, we are going to try our hardest to get back for the final round, but we're leaving. But no, they just leave and don't tell anyone.
That's the other thing. So she doesn't want to go. Well, she wants to go, but she doesn't want to go. She's speaking in weird formal third person. This cadet will not let down her team. This cadet knows how important this is to you, blah, 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 to Sir. And he's saying that Brad can change the drill team down to 3 flanks instead of 5 because they'll be, or 4, because they'll be down a man. And he does do that, but he has to think to do that because no one told him Kelly was leaving. And Jennifer Stone is like, how could we ever trust the stupid maggot? Once a maggot, always a maggot. And like, all this blamey shit. Because they don't know where she went because no one told anyone.
Yeah. That really bothered me because I was like, we had a whole conversation on how we're going to save her dad. So why aren't we telling people where we're going?
While we are on the final climax, not just the dad dying part, but like the drill team bits and stuff. Can we talk about the questions that they get asked? Like, the question that Kelly repeatedly gets wrong when Ramos is helping her, and then we hear her being asked and answering correctly on the floor in competition, is who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces? Which is a very easy question. It's the president. That is I never went to military school, but I can tell you that, baby.
Yeah. And you learn it in like 7th or 8th grade history class, I feel.
Yeah, 8th grade in California is U.S. history. You learn it.
Yeah.
And that's not also something you forget easily. It's like, oh, that makes sense. He leads the country. He leads the military. Or she or they, but so far it's only been he's, unfortunately. Another question that I didn't like that got thrown out was how many original colonies were there?
Yeah, that was asked.
That was dumb.
Yep.
But then there were like the other questions I didn't write down because they were very oddly specific. I mean, there were some that were like drill team things, like how do you execute blah, 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 like some weird move stuff. But it was like the questions were either like very generic or very specific.
Yes.
Did you not catch on to that? Did you not care? You're just like, eh.
No, No, I did catch on that. I was like, this question that Kelly's being asked is very dumb, and literally any person who has made it through middle school in the U.S. knows the answer.
I guess she's in middle school right now. How old is she?
No, she's 14.
Oh, so do you think she finished? Because she's like, I love my school, so I thought she would have stayed in middle school. Like maybe
I think she's. My guess was she was a freshman in high school, and this was high school.
Oh.
Like military academy, because all the captains and stuff are all 16 and 17.
Oh, I didn't catch any ages.
Yeah, they say that captains.
Oh, she's the meanest 16.
The mini. Yes.
The meanest
16-year-old.
Yes.
Yes.
They also have some phrases like unarm the competition. I'd rather not. Like, the drill sequences are so long, and I get that the final one is going to be long with her and Christy, Carlson, and Romano, but there's one mid-movie when they lose the competition the first time we see them compete, or maybe they're just rehearsing, I think, where she realizes...
It's like a trial competition. It's a competition, but it doesn't count for anything.
Yeah. And she says at this moment that it's like watching Swan Lake. It's not. I will never see drill team like that. But anyway, it's a very long full sequence for mid-movie just to introduce you to what they're doing when you've already seen them practicing multiple times, so you know what they're doing. And then we get more drill sequences later. Like, we did not... I liked the obstacle course. Keep the obstacle course. We did not get this much. We did not need this much gun flying. Like,
sure. But my thing was, that was the point. I would rather have more of that, them going to more competitions, them working on stuff, that the drill team part of the movie more established than us getting 55 minutes into the movie and then the point is given to us. Like, it's not even introduced to us until, like, 55 minutes in.
It could have been earlier, but I thought the obstacle course thing was fun, and also, like, you learn how to army crawl, or, like, in middle school, and so I thought it was relevant because I was watching it like, I could do that. And the mud, it's muddy. Everything that's muddy is fun. And you get to see Gloria Ramos for the first time, and, like, last time, and she's great. Well, second to last time.
Yep.
But
I do want to talk about, since we just brought up that obstacle course scene, when Kelly is leaving that scene and going into the dance, which then she gets Captain Stone all muddy, there is like a giant grass hill that just happens to have a 2 feet wide mud patch going down this hill for like 150 feet, in which Kelly steps on the mud part and slides down this hill, like tumbling like a cartoon character down this hill, flies straight through the closed wooden double doors into the dance. And I don't understand the physics. I don't understand how this is possible. Like, there's no way she had that much momentum that she would break through the doors of that into the dance, through the dance floor, into Captain Stone. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Who happens to be right in the line of fire and no one else is, or they get out in time, but she doesn't. It's a lot. It's a lot of coincidence.
Like, I need to know the science, because I just don't think it's possible.
I either, like, wasn't paying attention at this point, or, like, blinked and missed it, because I don't even remember how she got from point A to point B. Like,
the double doors to the building, they're like thick wooden double doors,
and she just
barrels through them.
Yeah, I've never understood that scene, because she's clearly not, even though Jennifer would think otherwise, she's not doing
malicious.
No, she's not doing it on purpose. She's not trying to ruin her or the dance. She's just happy to go to the dance. No. And then suddenly she is barreling into her. And you're right, it is very strange. I don't understand the physics of it. it's something special, you know? She's quirky, she's weird, she's clumsy. It's something I feel like Anne Hathaway would do in The Princess Diaries.
100%.
Mia Thermopolis would do this.
Mia Thermopolis would do it.
Not a single word of positive reinforcement was said during that obstacle course. Also, they were all mean. This is why people don't want to go to military school. What happened to a good job? Like, come on, guys. But when she goes down to do the army crawl for the first time, she throws up a peace sign at Brad and then ducks down, smiling. That's me. That's me going to do a little mud crawl. I found that very cute.
Yeah. She's cute.
Yeah. Do you have more notes about the dance and the obstacle course? Because I don't.
Nope. I have a really random note about Captain Stone that really bothered me.
Oh, go for it.
So after Kelly plays her prank on Captain Stone,
the paint
prank, and she's like marching in pissed, we see her getting out of bed to march in, and she puts on her boots, her combat boots, without socks. And I rewinded it 3 times because I was like, they are not showing us boots being put on, let alone military grade combat boots without socks.
That's disgusting.
It gave me the heebies. It was gross. Why would you be wearing those without socks? That couldn't be comfortable. It's gonna cause blisters. I have so many questions. I don't understand.
Was this when she was getting out of bed to go check in the mirror? So then maybe it was like, you know, like
why is she putting on her boots?
Like sliding on your slippers, like if she doesn't have slippers, maybe. I thought it was odd that she didn't have a mirror in her room. But I guess that's like the individuality. I don't know. But maybe that's the only thing I can think of is that she's like, she knows something's wrong and she needs to get to the mirror and she doesn't have time for socks. But she did do it very
There is absolutely no excuse for putting on combat boots without socks. None.
Okay. Fair. Do we know why they call her Captain Stone and Kelly's called Cadet Kelly? Is that a thing? Like, do you call cadets by their first name and people above you by their last name? Because that confused me.
Yeah, I don't understand that because Brad is referred to as Brad, but he's also referred to as Captain Major, which is his position.
Yeah.
But we never learn his last name. So it's not consistent.
Major? Is it not Major?
No, that's his position. I'm pretty sure he's Captain Major. Maybe
that's because he's Captain Major. Maybe it's like a title that doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. But we hear them say Cadet Ramos. They don't.
No, she calls her Captain Ramos.
She's a cadet. But I mean, she's a cadet.
She calls her Captain Ramos.
I thought she called her Cadet Ramos.
No, she definitely called her Captain Ramos.
Oh, because that was I wrote Cadet Ramos. I don't know. But so she's called by her last name instead of Gloria.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a cadet, so I thought that was proving something that it was inconsistent, but maybe it's not. Because, like, I guess someone who knows anything about anything that we're talking about.
Yeah, please let us know.
Because I really thought her last name was Kelly, like, for a long time. There's also, I think...
Collins.
You hear it, like, about halfway through the film where she's doing the scut work for the first time and she's singing about how Jennifer's heart is mighty cold. And Brad goes, how cold? And she goes, real cold.
Ice
cold. And then he goes, you make me laugh, Cadet Kelly. And I was like, that's the first time I've heard someone say it.
Yeah.
Because you just hear Jennifer call her maggot the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
To hear the title. That was fun.
And you don't you don't hear them refer. They never say Cadet Carla. Like, you don't really hear them refer to the other cadets.
Does anyone ever talk to Carla besides Kelly?
No.
Carla's like in sad girl hours the whole time.
She really is.
I want to talk. Okay, I've got lots of random notes, but I have one last thematical note, which is this.
Okay.
This theme of duplicity, of two being difficult. It's just her and her mom. And her dad's around. And then, so the dads have to come to terms with there are two dads. She has to come to terms with there are two friends. And there's also, when her mom tells her she's pregnant, that I'll love you both the same. This doesn't mean that I am pushing you aside in any way. And then she makes a comment, I'll always love you longer. And she says, I'll always love you longer too. And that comes up again at the end where she says, like, it's not that I like her better. Oh, when she's explaining to Carla about Amanda, she says, it's not that I like her better. I just knew her longer.
Have known her longer.
Which, like, was a weird, it can't be a coincidence unless this writer just only had 5 words in their vocabulary that they use that. And I don't really know what they're trying to say about you can have 2 of something in your life. Like, dads and best friends and siblings aren't all the same thing. You can have 2 of all of those things. I just don't really know what the point of that, like, theme was.
Yeah, I don't know either. I do think that you can have 2 best friends is something that a lot of people learn in that middle school, high school age, though. So I actually think it is a good lesson where it's like, you can have more than one. But I don't understand the theme of duplicity that comes up multiple times.
Yeah.
What's the purpose?
Yeah. It doesn't, because it doesn't really play. It's not like she thinks that you can't.
Yeah.
Do you have other notes before I?
Other, like, small note is we hear this kind of narrative voice. So it's Kelly's voice, but it's not when she has dialogue. We hear it throughout the film, like, as she's narrating certain things. And it really reminded me of the inner Lizzie voice without the animation. It was almost like they needed to keep something from Lizzie and put it into this film, because not that it didn't fit. I didn't think that it, like, didn't fit, but it didn't necessarily need to be there. But it was really, really reminiscent of Lizzie.
Yeah, it didn't add anything.
Yeah.
But it existed. I didn't notice it much, but I know the first one, when she arrives at military school, you hear her say, where can I get a cafe mocha? But you don't, her lips don't move. And that's when I went, oh, this is some Lizzie inner voice.
Mm-hmm.
Why? For what?
Yeah, and it doesn't happen consistently enough for it to be like this set in stone thing. It just happens from time to time in the film. So it feels like slightly misplaced, but slightly like Disney was like, oh, Lizzie's successful and this was something they did in Lizzie, so let's just throw it in here. It just felt slightly misplaced.
Yeah. It felt like an afterthought, kind of in the way that the characters felt like caricatures of their television show characters.
Mm-hmm.
She has one really great line. She has a lot of good lines. She has one really great line where Kelly speaks some truth, where her mom says, you never asked me, or she says to her mom, you never asked me if I wanted to come here, when she's, like, crying. I don't even remember
I have this line written down. It hit the same for me. I was like, this is a really awesome moment. Mm-hmm. So her mom makes a comment. Hold on, let me find it.
It's not even a big comment.
Nope. And so it's after everything's going on, where you hear the commandant and the mom have some sort of conversation on how Kelly's not doing well. And then Kelly's sitting on the staircase in tears, and her mom makes a comment to Kelly and was like, maybe we shouldn't have come here. And Kelly's like, Mom, you never asked me if you wanted me to come here. And I think it's so important, because the way the mom kind of says it's like, maybe we shouldn't have come here. And Kelly's like, you never fucking asked me. And like, I didn't want to come here.
And the conversation that her mom and the commandant are having is very dramatic, where she's like, one little girl couldn't break you or break this position for you. And he's like, well, maybe I met the one little girl that could. And it's so much, considering that all of this has been thrown at her in, I guess, the last like 6-ish months.
Yes.
To me, it felt like a week,
and no one is like, the thing about this military academy is everyone is just expecting her to know what to do. No one is teaching her or telling her anything. She's not learning any of these protocols. She's not being taught how to do anything. The only person that ever tries to teach her anything is Carla and Captain Ramos.
Yeah.
Those are the only two individuals that ever try to actually help her out.
And that is when we see Carla, is when early on, like her second day there, they're saying like, this is at 0600 hour and this is blah 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 blah, and they're using military time, and she's like, my watch only has 12 hours on it. And Captain Stone is mad at her, and I don't know military time either. Like, and if no one were to explain that to me, I'd be like, what the hell just went on? So shout out to Carla yet again, because I will never get over how like undeserving everyone was of Carla. But yes, okay, I do understand Kelly is acting out a little bit. This is after she's painted Jennifer's hair.
Yeah.
So she is acting out a bit. And she's struggling in her classes. However, no one asked her to leave all of her friends as a teenager, to leave her home, to leave her school, to go to a military school. She did it all almost happily. There's a scene where she's like, it doesn't matter, I'm not going, as she's packing. She knows she's going. And like, she's trying so hard to adjust in the only way she knows how. And they're being so rough about it.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that line just like was the moment of truth and clarity in the film. And I feel like it was brushed off too quickly.
Yeah, I definitely think they could have let that moment sit a little bit longer, because it's the first time that Kelly actually kind of stands up to her mom and is like, you never asked me.
Yeah, she's going along.
No one has ever considered me in this. Like, this decision was made and I was never considered, and it was the first time that she really brought that up.
Yeah, she's been going along this whole time. She doesn't like it, but she's been doing it anyway.
Yeah.
She's a good sport. See, I have nice things to say about Kelly. A different line that had truth in that it hurt to me was she tells the commandant, before he's the commandant, when they're just having dinner, if you're going to be part of this family, you got to learn to slouch a little. And she does a little shoulder wiggle because he's sitting up very straight. I personally can barely sit up straight. I am a hermit crab at this point. So that hurt, but that's okay. It was cute.
It was cute.
Where else are we going? What's next? I have more, but what's next?
That's really all I have. The only other thing I have, which is not important, so I wasn't going to go over it, but is that we always see Kelly in like her from home funky pajamas, and everyone else has like uniform pajamas.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's Kelly breaking the rules, but no one ever tells us that she's not allowed to be wearing her own pajamas. But then why don't the other people wear their own pajamas?
I was very confused as well as to whether or not they were allowed to own their own pajamas or not. And if this was like, because she uses the blanket at night, she's clearly doing stuff when Jennifer's not around. But then the others aren't. Like, why throw it in there if you're not going to at least comment on it?
Yeah. It was very weird. Because everyone else just wears, it's not their cadet uniform, but it's like a plain like tan t-shirt and like tan pajama pants. Like everyone else wears like clearly pajamas that were given out by the academy, and she has like bright red and pink PJs. Like, yeah,
it's confusing.
It is confusing.
You know your note about the physics of the dance scene? So I have a note about the physics before that of another scene. One of the first things that she does that bothers Captain Stone, she shows up on the second day with a bunch of bracelets on and a scarf, and Carla's like, you got to take that off, and so she takes it all off really quick. She throws it in her hat, puts her hat on, and then everyone was supposed to salute, and she didn't salute, and Captain Stone's right in front of her at this point trying to figure out what's wrong, and she looks at her, and Carla's like, yo. And so she goes to salute, and this is what I don't understand. So the cap's on with all the stuff. You see her hand, first your hand comes from the front. I think I don't know if she flings it around a little, but you see it come up, and it's there. Your shot is of her from the backside, and then I think, even though her hand's already there, the next shot is of the hat flying, and I think it flies forward.
Oh.
And also her hand was already there. I don't know how it hit the hat. It was very, it was very confusing. The hat flew after her hand had already been where it needed to be.
That is very confusing.
It wasn't like she went like this.
No, she went in
Sorry
forward.
to anyone listening.
No, now that you say that, the stuff definitely does fall forward and out of the cap onto the floor. But how they show her hand hitting the cap is from the front on.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Come on, guys, we notice. Fun little notes I have are, there's a shot of a trumpet player with braces, which I thought was really funny because I was in band and I had friends who were trumpet players with braces, and that shit hurt. He just and then he smiles and you just see a mouthful of braces. One of my biggest notes is just the name Plogloff, because there's a girl sitting in her class, in the first class in military school, with a name tag on that says Ploglof.
Plogloff. I like that.
I don't know if that stands for something. I thought it was a name.
No, those are their last names.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm confused about, there's a moment when she's starting to understand school and she's paying attention. She gets really into military strategy because of course she does. And there's this point where she goes, so advancing the rear is a good thing? And her teacher says yes. And then that leads to her learning that she needs to get along with Jennifer. I clearly was not paying attention in that class because I did not know how the two things were connected.
I have no idea. Don't ask me.
And then my last thing, thank God Amanda always takes too many notes. My last thing is to really, really hone in on the memorable ribbon baton scene with Christy, Carlson, Romano, and Lizzie McGuire at the end of the movie. Not Lizzie McGuire, Cadet Kelly. That was a verbal typo, but it's funny. So I don't actually think it was that good. I think it was shot well.
So I think it was shot really well. I also know that they worked really, it was a scene that they worked really hard to, do. I also know that they were trying to be as accurate to the moves that are allowed in that type of competition. So I don't know a lot about drill team and what's allowed and what's not allowed, but I know that they were trying to be as accurate as possible and not put in moves that would be so out of the box and absolutely never allowed in a drill competition. And so I think those type of moves have to be very stiff and kind of regimented. So there's only so much they can do to make it good.
So what you're saying is it's not that good, but it's good for what it is.
Yeah, I think so.
I felt like this movie was supposed to sell me on drill team, and it really didn't.
It did not sell me on drill team whatsoever. It did sell me on. Part of me wishes I was an actor though, because they shot this during summer when the military academies, because they shot them at military academies in Canada. So they shot them during summer, and everyone just says that it was a giant summer camp and that a lot of the crew had relationships. And for the drill team, all the women on the drill team were dancers and all the men were actual cadets. they weren't dancers or actors, they were true cadets, and that there were like little summer flings between the cadets and the dancers. And I'm just like, what I would do to just be on that set. It seems like it would be such a fun set. They were all in Canada. Like, it was a lot of the actors, like, first time outside of the country for the US actors. Like, I just think it sounded like such a fun environment to work in and such a fun crew to be a part of.
I do. It made me laugh a little bit that they filmed it at a Canadian military school. Like, I almost feel like that's some sort of treason or heresy or something. What is heresy? I'm using the wrong words, but it seems wrong to be filming at another country's military school.
Yes.
To note, this is the second DCOM to be filmed in Canada, and after, like, later on in the 2000s, they start filming, like, most DCOMs in Canada. But a lot of them are filmed in Vancouver, whereas this was filmed in Alberta. But
yes,
I think it near Edmonton or something, but yeah.
Yeah. Also in Toronto and Ontario is what I have written down.
Oh, maybe it was in Ontario. I thought it was Alberta.
No.
I didn't write it down, so you're probably correct.
Yeah.
But
I also have written down that Hilary Duff was made honorary cadet sergeant of the school during production, and I just think that's kind of cute.
That is very cute.
That the school is like, oh, we're having a DCOM film, so let's make Hilary Duff our honorary sergeant. And they're like, Christy, Carlson, Romano, you get nothing.
I know! That's what I was just thinking. I was like, oh my god, wait, what about Christy?
Yeah, I know.
And she probably was like, oh, like, I don't know. She talks fondly of this movie, and I'm sure it was a great time, like you said, like sleepaway camp. But also, I wonder if, like, as a teenage girl, you know that your show is on the way out and her show is the big thing. I guess technically both shows were on their way out, but it took Lizzie like fucking 2 years to film or to air the last season, the second season. So,
yes.
Yeah, I wonder if that would be.
Lizzie had a movie that went to box office.
Yeah.
Like, I think definitely there probably was some like
tension,
feeling tension, but also feeling typecasted because you know, Christy, Carlson, Romano kind of was typecasted based off Ren. Like, Ren's the mean evil sister, so let's make her this evil captain at military academy. So I'm sure it was tough for her to film, but also she talks about it very fondly. So
yeah,
she just says the boots sucked. That was everything she kept saying. She was like, they actually made us practice in the like military grade combat boots, and she was like, they gave me back problems.
You would think that they would be good for the back. Like, you need to.
No, she was like, Disney paid for our massages, but like I fucked up a nerve.
Damn.
Yeah.
She did say in one of her most recent videos that she gets typecast, but she was like, but let's face it, like, all my characters are basically me. Yeah. So I'm glad that there's so much like tidbits that you have about the accuracy to the military school life, because I was waiting for you to pull out like surely someone's compared and made like an article about like how accurate the military school aspects are. Like, I want to know.
So I think, you know, I don't know exactly how accurate, but I know they tried to make it as accurate as possible, and they actually had a drill sergeant come in and train them for a month. They did use plastic guns for the drill team, not the actual ones that they use, because they're easier to throw in lighter. So that's, some people pick at that because they're like, these aren't the guns that are actually used. But I do think the fact that they hired cadets, so the people on the drill team, you know, they hired female dancers, but all the males are actual cadets. It shows that they were trying, you know, that they were like, we want to make this as good as we possibly can. Also, I'm sure hiring cadets was actually cheaper than hiring actors.
I was gonna say,
maybe they were doing it for a budget reason.
They were on the campus. They were already there.
Yeah, let's just use them.
Yeah. My last note about all of this is that the dance scene, it's great. I don't think it's as good as we remember, but I feel bad saying that, knowing that they worked so hard for it. It's shot very well in the way that a lot of dances are shot, with very like different angles thrown together, so it looks a lot more impressive than it is, which isn't to say that dance isn't impressive. I don't know that I would classify this as a dance. It's of some sort. But the whole thing is to the song One Girl Revolution by I don't know who. Great song. Loved this song growing up. Loved it today. I was singing along. I wasn't paying attention to the dance. I had to rewind because I realized I was not paying attention and it was done. But I was singing the song. However, it's a one girl revolution and there are two girls. And the whole point of this movie is that you can have two of things and that's okay. So why is it a one girl revolution at the end?
Yep. The song slapped, though. I loved it. I was like,
I'll be anything that I wanna be. I am confident and insecurity. I am a voice just waiting to be heard. I'll shoot the shot, bang. Boom. You hear around the world.
Is it bang or boom?
Oh, I always thought it was bang. I'll shoot.
You're probably
the shot,
right.
Bang. You hear around the world. Because I'm a one-girl revolution. Yeah, there's a lot. You know, I don't even think that could be copyrighted because it was not that accurate. But yeah, I was watching it and I was like, but these are two girls.
Yep. I was going to say, all in all, I think it's a good rewatch. If you haven't rewatched it in a while, I definitely would recommend it. It's not my favorite of anything we've watched so far, but it's pretty good.
It is good. It doesn't go anywhere on the ratings. It is a fun episode. By the way, we never said this. Maybe I'll cut this in the beginning. We're doing this for fun. We're not a DCOM rewatch podcast. We focus on the shows and not even just Disney Channel. We're only doing Disney Channel right now, but we're open to other networks. Like I realize we brand ourselves very much with Disney right now, but we focus on shows more. We really just needed a breather to do Cadet Kelly, and it seemed like the perfect opportunity because of Christy and Lizzie, and we just finished both of those shows. We're going into Raven next.
And also, I just really wanted to watch it. I will throw that in there, is that I haven't watched it in a few years, and I just really wanted to watch it. Yep. I was like, we need some time. It's easier, rewatching the shows takes a little bit more time for us to do. So I'm like, this is a great episode for us to do, and it gave me an excuse to watch a movie I've been wanting to rewatch.
Yeah, so it's not something we're going to do all the time, but ever so often when we want to have a breather, it's good to go. It's good to go. It's a good idea. Thank you, Jessica, for the good idea.
I'm not full of them, but when I have them.
This podcast was your idea.
Yeah. It's your idea.
It was your idea.
It was Amanda's idea. I just thought to turn it into a podcast.
Therefore, I was rewatching the shows on my own for fun. Yeah. And I wanted to write an article at the end of who knows how many shows comparing them.
Yep. Here we are.
Anyway, that's the origin story. And thank you so much for listening. If you have been listening, thank you. If you listen ever, if you're new, or if you've been supporting us for the last couple of months, we really appreciate it. Please like or rate us on whatever you're using to listen to us with, because then hopefully we can get a little bit more traction to be promoted to other people.
Yep, and please follow us on all our social media. You can watch us on YouTube at 90s Babies Nostalgia, spell out the word 90s, as well as on Instagram at 90s Babies Nostalgia. And we are on Twitter at 90s_babies. I'm going to start working on that. Being more active on the social media is our goal for this new year. And we are also on TikTok at...
I think it's 90s Babies Nostalgia, but 90s is the numbers.
Use the numericals on TikTok.
Yeah.
And our next show that we're doing is That's So Raven. So we'll be kind of doing an overview of That's So Raven next, as well as reviewing season 1 of That's So Raven. And we're both very, very excited, and we hope you are too. This is a very pivotal show for Disney, so I think it's going to be so much fun to talk about and rewatch.
It's so good. I've already watched it all. I'm just waiting for Jessica to watch, and it's so good.
I'm excited.
Okay. Thank you again. We really, really appreciate any support. And I don't know, send us messages, interact with us, send us comments, feedback about stuff, except maybe on YouTube because YouTube is still eating our comments. But other than that, send us messages. We like to hear about people's nostalgia factors. What did you think of Cadet Kelly? Did you like it? Do you remember this? Was this your gay awakening? Please let me know.
Yes. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.